For the first time in a long time now, I feel like we've got a manager who's got a plan.
Yep.
He wants us to play a certain way. We're not going to win every game. We are going to continue to have setbacks because every football team does. But at least now we feel, I don't know what you think, encouraged.
Welcome back to Small Heath Alliance FC. On Tuesday night, Birmingham City hosted Blackburn Rovers, where Birmingham went on to win 1-0. But was that the full story? Was it actually quite a frustrating night for Birmingham? And did John Eustace have enough time to incorporate his strategy and his tactics? Now, Dad, the game was less than 24 hours ago, so we've had enough time to sort of reflect, and I just want to get your initial thoughts on the actual performance.
So one thing I was really encouraged about was the team selection. It showed me that we have got a fantastic manager, Tony Mowbray. There's no doubt that in the Sheffield Wednesday game when we lost 2-0, we clearly had lots of shots. We did against Leicester, and we've been playing a really progressive game of football, but we have struggled to score goals. And when I looked at the team sheet, noticed that Tony Mowbray had made 7 changes from the team that played Sheffield Wednesday. Just to remind ourselves of who those 7 changes are, he dropped Etheridge, Buchanan, Bakuna, Hogan, Dembele, Long and Sunjic, and into the team came Ruddy, Mark Roberts, Tyler Roberts, Miyoshi, Drama, Paik, Stansfield, and on the bench we had Jukovic. And an interesting take from that as well, on the bench there was no Burke, there was no Ayew, there was no Hogan, and no Longelo.
Yeah.
It tells us that now we have got a bit of depth in our squad. Yeah. So one thing that encouraged me was the way that Tony Mowbray is trying to sort of get the right mix, and I believe he did.
Yeah, and on top of that, we've got Sanderson, Pritchard and George Hall to come back as well. Yeah. All brilliant players.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is Ayew and Burke were quite a popular selection for Rooney, weren't they? So it just shows how far we've came since that time, how much depth we have in the squad and what Mowbray's trying to do. I think at the moment, when Rooney came in, he was tinkering with the squad. I think Mowbray's had that time now, and he's kind of found the squad that he's happy with. And I love it. I think it's great. I think the takeaways from last night for me, standout performance was Paik.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Oh, my God. What a phenomenal performance. And I loved his link-up play with Dozzell as well. He was aggressive going forward, always passed it forward. He was looking in the channels, creativity, was shooting at distance. Just an all-round great performance. And if him and Dozzell can link up that play moving forward, I think we're on to a winner. I think those two were absolutely brilliant last night.
Yeah, completely. I mean, they changed the team. It was a sort of a bold move to take Sunjic out because Sunjic is almost that safety net.
He was the captain against Sheffield Wednesday.
Exactly, and we sort of agree that you have to sort of take the compromise. If you're going to put Sunjic in the team, you know that he's going to win a load of balls, but his ball distribution, although it's improved this season, it's not as good as it could be.
Yeah.
So there's that compromise you take. But he took him out. We had Paik and Dozzell in the centre of our midfield, and they did an absolutely wonderful job.
Brilliant, weren't they?
Yeah.
And I must admit, just to call it what it is, and I'm sorry, Blackburn Rovers fans, if you're listening, I thought it was quite disappointing from Blackburn, actually. I thought their passing was really sloppy. The stats show that we had 53% possession, but to me, I trust the stats, but I felt like we had a bit more of the ball in the game than that, if I'm going to be totally honest.
I thought that. I thought the stat when I looked at the stats, and obviously being at the game, you sort of get an impression for our overall dominance, and I thought we were pretty dominant for most of the game.
Yeah.
There were patches when obviously Blackburn had the ball, but it did seem a little bit low to me, 53%.
Yeah, and we restricted them to a couple of long distance shots. They had one final thing which they nearly did equalise in the last minute with a long throw. And
we nearly blew it.
Absolutely sensational save from John Ruddy. But apart from that, I think we contained them quite well, and we should have been, if I'm totally honest, I think that should have been 3 or 4-0 to Blues. Typical story of our season over the past 3 or 4 games, especially where we just cannot put the ball in the net. It was at times really frustrating, but I don't want to take the glow off the performance. I actually think we were pretty good, actually great last night. I think some brilliant individual performances, and I was really impressed with Bakuna and Dembele coming off the bench. I think they were fantastic, and I don't know what Bakuna was up to. It was like he was South American samba football at one point, wasn't he? He was doing flicks and tricks and dribbles and absolutely phenomenal. And if you look at the goal that we actually scored, it came through Dembele in the middle, down Bakuna on the right, the cross came in. So the build-up play was there from the subs that came on, and that's the whole point, isn't it? And we said on a video last week that our subs weren't having impact, and last night they changed the game and got us that goal. So I loved what Dembele and Bakuna came off the bench and actually did for us last night.
And again, it comes back to the manager as well. The manager is looking for that. He said that when his subs come on, he wants them to make a difference in the game.
Yeah.
I don't know how you felt, Matt, but after 75 minutes, in my mind, I'm thinking it's going to be one of them games again.
Yeah, 100%.
We were knocking on the door. We had some really great chances. I mean, Mark Roberts, he had some good chances. He had a header that hit the base of the post.
Yep.
And then in the second half, he had a header that went just over the bar. And I know that Mark Roberts has got his criticisms, and as a defender, I think, is as good as anybody in the Championship as a defender. But the problem is his ball distribution is terrible.
Yeah,
and that's the downside to Mark Roberts. But I think that because we got a clean sheet, which was a real bonus, the first clean sheet for a while. I think it's for 8 or 9 games in any competition that we've played. That's our first one, and I think that's granted the back four almost a guaranteed starting for the next game.
Yeah.
Because why would you change Did you find it interesting as well that Buchanan was dropped and that we had Ethan Laird as a left wing, and we had Drama back, who I always like to see him in the team.
He's fantastic.
Didn't he?
He did. He's a solid player. And just to jump on your Mark Roberts comment, he did have a good game last night. Yeah. I'm not a massive Mark Roberts fan. I prefer Kevin Long in that position, just personally, but as you say, his ball distribution is shocking. But we're not going to dwell on that. He had a good game. He was solid. He had a couple of chances. And actually, I think he deserved his place in the team, Mark Roberts. I think he showed. And he was captain as well.
Yeah.
And I think he's the only one in that team, actually, that actually shows that level of leadership for me. And before we get on to the next point, I think an honourable mention for Tyler Roberts and...
I was just about to mention him.
And Ethan Laird. Yeah. I think Ethan Laird and Tyler Roberts, they both look like they're lacking match practice. They both look like they're lacking a little bit of fitness. But take nothing away from their performance last night. I think Tyler Roberts, okay... He missed a sitter in the first half, and for the second goal, he should have second chance in the second half. He should have slid it across for an open goal. I think it was Stansfield or Dozzell that was there waiting. But having said that, I think Tyler Roberts was good. He was creative. Yeah. His passing was decent. Fair enough. Missed a couple of chances, but overall, I was really encouraged with Tyler Roberts. And Ethan Laird, the reason why he gets an honourable mention was he had an okay game, nothing outrageous, but his passion. Yeah. How many times did he go to the crowd and get us rallied up? How many times did he put a challenge in and then scream in the player's face? I love his enthusiasm. And I think Ethan Laird is a captain in the waiting. I think he needs more experience. I think me and you discussed this last night at the game. But I love his leadership. I love his passion. And I love the fact he gets the crowd rallied up, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, Tyler Roberts deserves a mention. You know, he's had a tough time with injuries. And I think a lot of Blues fans never thought we'd ever see him play.
No.
When he joined us, I think he played half a game against Swansea, which is the first game of the season. And we didn't see him for months.
Yeah.
Then he had setbacks. And now he's come back. And I don't know what you think, Blues fans, but he's obviously not 100% fit yet. But he gets in good positions. And I think he's working his way to full fitness. I think that chance that Matt was talking about in the second half, where the goalkeeper spilled it basically and did a short pass to their defender, I think he was aiming to try and bend it into the top right-hand corner, but he went completely out. But something else worth mentioning as well, mate, it's got to be as well, the stats tell us we had loads of shots again, but half of those are still in the air now. I mean, they weren't just over the bar, they were miles over the bar. So, yes, the signs are there. They're encouraging. And what I'm really encouraged about last night is I think, firstly, for the first time in a long time now, I feel like we've got a manager who's got a plan.
Yep.
He wants us to play a certain way. We're not going to win every game. We are going to continue to have setbacks because every football team does. But at least now we feel, I don't know what you think, encouraged?
100%. We look a completely different team under Moby. Confident. We're even playing out from the back from time to time, but it's not as drastic as what Rooney was trying to do. And the players still look comfortable. That's the thing for me. Under Rooney, certain times under Eustace as well, there was the level of uncomfortableness when the players were playing, but especially under Rooney. But playing out from the back, they look more confident. Yeah, the team just looks way more better set up than it under Moby. It's day and night in comparison to where we were.
It does, and I think we can take a lot of encouragement from this match. I mean, at the end of the day, I said to you, I don't care how we win that game, even if it's off someone's backside. I don't care 100%. As long as we got the 3 points, which is what we wanted.
Yeah.
And it was encouraging. But and with respect to Blackburn, they weren't the best team we've seen down there, and we're going to play better teams in this league, and that's where going to be our real test will be.
And just to jump in to give our opposition a little bit of airtime as well. How typical was it of Blackburn that Eustace has only been there for 4 or 5 days and they already look like a John Eustace team to me? Quite difficult to break down, quite a few men behind the ball. It looked typical of watching a Blues game sort of 8 to 12 months ago under Eustace.
But that's why I believe we struggled to score, because they'd set themselves up at 2 banks of 4 and then a few of the other players were drifting around them. And that's exactly how Eustace used to set up Birmingham City. And it is frustrating to watch sometimes because you're absorbing loads and loads of pressure and trying to catch teams on the break. But I think that's one of the reasons why we missed loads of chances as well, because they were pressurising us, because they had lots of men around the ball. Typical John Eustace.
So I actually thought Blackburn were possibly a better team than what they are. I actually think they're going to be down there, unfortunately. As I said, really sloppy passing. How many times did we watch it and we thought, what was that player trying to do? We just literally felt like he just booted it out. Really quite sloppy. No massively dangerous threats there. We restricted them to a couple of long shots, and apart from that final attempt there with the cracking Ruddy save, I think we kept them at bay. Wasn't really concerned during many parts of the game. But for me, had all the classical signs of a John Eustace team set up already.
It did. I agree. And I think that's the way John Eustace likes to play. And to be fair, it got us results where we were. Yeah. But it did sort of frustrate us, definitely for the chances we were making, we just didn't score. But just one final mention from me, just to mention for John Ruddy, that save at the end effectively helped us to keep those 3 points. But John Ruddy, if you're ever watching this video, don't keep kicking the ball out, please. You know, those white lines on the side of the touch lines. You're supposed to kick the ball inside those, okay? But you know, I'm glad that I'm glad that John Ruddy came back. I like him as our goalkeeper. You feel like when there's a corner, he'll command it. You know, for his faults, and he has had some pretty dodgy moments this season, like every other Blues player. But it was nice seeing him back in the starting lineup again yesterday.
I like John Ruddy. I've got a little soft spot for John Ruddy. I think he's a good keeper. I just think he's coming towards the end of his career. It's like Ben Foster at Wrexham. He retired in the end because he felt like he was slow to the ball and his decision making wasn't as sharp. I think Ruddy's going to hit that point possibly next year or so as well.
I think you're right.
But credit to him. He's a good keeper on his day, and he showed last night he's still an amazing shot stopper. Yeah,
and I don't think that if I was Tony Mowbray, I would look for too many changes to the starting lineup. For the next game, which is against Sunderland. So I think most of those players give themselves a lot of credit, and I think the more they play together, the better that they're going to be and understand each other. I mean, we know it wasn't perfect. We saw stray passes as we always do, and we saw mistakes being made. But overall, there seemed to be a starting, like a bit of cohesion within the team. So for me, it was a really positive game yesterday, and the main thing was the result.
Yeah, and you've said several times you want to see the Blues team with a bit of identity, and I think Mowbray over time now is starting to give us that.
I think so, and that's encouraging because it's it's the start of our journey, and if we play that way and get stronger together, and we can start Paik a lot more. With Dozzell in that middle, I think we'll win more games than we'll lose. So
for me, Paik and Dozzell were the standout. They were absolutely fantastic last
night. I think so. Yeah, they did really well. They sort of brought everything together, and like Mowbray wanted, they're looking forwards rather than backwards.
And and we mentioned this at the start of the video, we've still got Pritchard to add to that possibly attacking forward line as well. So I think onwards and upwards for Blues. I think the future is going to look bright for the end of this season.
Me too. I agree.
So you've heard our thoughts, but football is all about opinion, and we'd love to hear from you. Blues fans, what did you think about the performance last night? And Blackburn fans, were you happy with that first performance under John Eustace? Please feel free to drop us a comment. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future content.